What is up, everybody? Happy Sunday to you. I was catching up on my news feeds, and obviously, I see content creators like Willie D and Tisa Tells. They are definitely going hard, and other content creators who are definitely going hard on the Nolan Wells case. And, I appreciate people like that committing themselves to following these stories and following details of these stories because, again, our justice system is so corrupt. And it's just very unjust that, it's one of those things that you almost have, these independent investigators are always going to be the heroes because you have people who are paid to do jobs that can be paid not to do their jobs. And I say this to say, I don't know what is going on in Mississippi. I think a lot of people, down to even the family, are a little in the dark as to what is going on in Mississippi concerning the investigation with Nolan Wells. A lot of information is being suppressed, and obviously that opens the door, that leads to just making assumptions about why is things not so clear in this situation, and why is it that the family feel like they're in the dark about things. Why hasn't there been any arrests in this case outside of, I guess, somebody who was perceived as a threat to one of the kids' mom? But I say this to say that, this situation kind of takes me to, that situation with that really wealthy kid, Ethan Couch. And if you remember the Ethan Couch situation, this was a 16-year-old affluent kid, grew up millionaire parents or whatever. And this kid was essentially able to get away with multiple murders. They attributed his reckless behaviors to him being affluent and entitled, basically, and he was able to skate through, justice, for killing those people. Like, as far as I know, the dude is walking around living his life. And, that kind of led me down a rabbit hole of some other famous, very affluent people whose children have gotten away with murder or who they themselves have gotten away with murder. And I say this to say that these people have enough money to make things go away. These people obviously are coordinated. They know the right people to try to stall this situation, this investigation, to the point where people just give up. I mean, this is where dragging things in the court system really becomes their thing. They like to drag things out in the court system, some of these folks. And they know that eventually people are going to be depleted in their finances where they're not going to be able to sustain it, right? Or, they're going to, just the delay in information and movement of getting information out, it's just not going to be there. So you see a lot of people, no matter what color they are, who are victims of the children of these affluent people. And these people are able to harm other people, have an excuse. Oh, I was in a rush. Like in the case of Laura Bush, actually, I was reading, when she was a teenager, she was in a rush to go to some movie, and they ended up killing, I guess, somebody from their high school, one of their football stars in their high school. And she was able to get out of that situation, move on with her life, live her life like she didn't do it. And so it's just one of those things that you look at this Nolan Wells situation, you look at how they're dragging their asses on this. This is to buy people time. I look at when you see the dragging of evidence, it is really to buy time. It is to try to figure out how to make things go away or how to make evidence go away, consolidate things so that it, you know, so people can get off, basically. And so I do personally believe that something bad happened to that boy. And I think that the people who are responsible for that, they come from families that got enough money to make things go away. And this is just a way of rich people, right? They don't live by the same rules as other people in society, but regardless of what the rules are, there's always that old witching and that old demonizing of things and choices that you make. And so what the parents do is they get these kids off, right? But they still have a liability on their hands. Their kid is still a screwed up person that is going to be costing them money, and that is going to be their punishment for enabling their kid to harm other people and get away with it. And again, this is all speculation or whatever. This is all assuming, and this is just making general assessment about situations like this. So let me know what you guys think. I think that the suppression of the information, the evidence in here, there could be a number of reasons why we are not getting more information. A lot of times in investigations, you do got to let things play out. And sometimes the more it doesn't seem like the investigation is moving, the more people get comfortable talking and saying shit, doing shit, getting on camera saying shit. And sometimes this investigation may be going, a totally different way and we don't know about it. But to protect the interest of the investigation, right, they need to be able to kind of move in silence. So I'm going to give grace to investigators on this, that there is a lot of information, a lot of stories to kind of weave together. And the best way to do that is to talk to people. And sometimes you don't have an open and closed case. In a situation like this where you have multiple accounts, you have maybe some witnesses who are afraid to speak, situations like this can take, quite some time. But on the flip side, when it comes to the law enforcement and those who are responsible for investigating and seeing what happened to that boy, they are looking mad suspect. The autopsy not being released. I mean, again, I feel like this is a way to buy time. I believe that autopsy might have showed something that definitely puts into question what some of these people are saying about what happened on that island. And again, when you get these young Caucasian boys and there's that one black friend and maybe somebody's intimidated by that friend, one of the things that one of the boys said in the Brandon Tatum interview is that Nolan was cradling, meaning he had a girl on his lap holding her, Katie, right? And this Katie person is definitely a person of interest because Katie is making it seem like, they just saw each other high by. She didn't make it seem like they were up there just boojacking, on the boat. So, but that's what his homeboy said. And then he said Nolan, shook his head like that. And, usually when you see a dude shaking his head like this, right, his friend looking at him or whatever, and it, like, that he got somebody else's girl. Like, let's just think about it. Like, he said Nolan shook his head, you know what I mean? He had Katie girl and he was just shaking his head. Like, what is he shaking his head? He's shaking his head like, I don't give a fuck about that dude who is also claiming her, possibly. I mean, that's what it leads to me to believe. So let me know what you guys think. I'm not, like I said, I'm not religious on anything that's going on in Satan's world. I catch little snippets, but I do kind of see the people who are asking why, what happened to Nolan, what. And, it goes back to, again, Ethan Couch is a perfect example of children who come from affluent families who get away with murder. It's the same way with some of these affluent men who kill their wives because they don't want to split assets and she wants to leave him, and then they go blame it on a black man. So nothing new under the sun. Nothing new under the sun. I pray for justice, but I know real justice doesn't come until God's kingdom comes on this earth and restore it. So I pray for God's kingdom to come on this earth as it is in heaven. All praises to the King in heaven and the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Have a wonderful evening and have a wonderful work week or grind week. Bye.